Hello, and welcome to the Rethink Retail podcast. I'm Jeremy Goldman, VP of Editorial and Insights, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Retail Roundup. It's going to be a really exciting one. Every week, we dive into the latest trends and news shaping the retail world and beyond, alongside a dynamic panel of industry experts. And when you think of dynamic, I don't know about you guys, I think about Charisma Glassman, Senior Partner and VP at Genpact. Hey, Charisma.
Nice to meet y'all. Looking forward to the episode this time.
Absolutely. We've also got Ricardo Belmar, founder and host of the Retail Razor Podcast Network. Hey, Ricardo.
Hey, Jeremy. Hey, everyone. Super glad to be here.
And one of my favorite blue-haired people in the world, and I don't say that lightly because I know a lot of individuals, like that. David Polinchock, co-founder and president of Brand Experience Lab. Hey, David.
Hey, nice to be here and good to see everybody.
Thank you all for being here today. And also make sure to stick around after the panel because we will have an interview for you recorded at eTail Boston featuring David's Bridal's Chief Communications and Creative Officer, Lisa Horton, and its President and Chief Business Officer, Elina Vilk. As one ago, I barely remember it.
Well, it feels like a store in a pocket. I think it was the best thing that happened to retail because now you can literally shop, not just from your phone, from your app, but also now through ChatGPT.
Yep, 100%.
Absolutely. No, it is crazy. I think that one of the things that is interesting to me, and I wanted to get into like the meat and potatoes of this episode very quickly because we've got a lot to talk about. You know, it's like earnings season, and there's a lot of July numbers that you've all probably seen. July retail sales fell 0.6%. From June, which was the steepest monthly decline since May 2025, and dramatically worse than about the 0.2% growth economists had expected. E-commerce was particularly weak.
Exactly.
So it's a really good point. Yeah. What do the rest of you think? You know, to tell Ricardo he's wrong. By all means, let's have a fight on there.
I would just add that, it's one way of looking at it as consumer sentiment, but also I did an analysis of 50 retailers and look at their H1 CEO reports, their earnings calls. And I don't think consumer sentiment is going anywhere. So one is these, and I do kind of partially agree with Ricardo, not having a head-to-head fight here, that, hey, there is a lot of lag in the reports and who's reporting what data. But if you actually see the top 50 retailers across the globe and their sales, everybody is doing great. Value and choice aligning together, both customers who were looking for value and looking for quality are there in the market. This quarter-on-quarter sales across the retail is increasing. So somebody is buying that thing. What do you think, David?
Well, I think what's interesting, and this has been the case for years now, a couple of years now, since the pandemic, is the reports seem to be good, but hang out on a Friday night at a happy hour and people are stressed.
We saw the unemployment, to Ricardo's point, fell 23,000 jobs, which was significant. So the K economy is still prevalent, but overall retailers are saying the sales are increasing. There was a lot of pressure on Fortune 500 to show quarter-on-quarter growth. There are different parts of the consumer bases that are buying different items, but we have to Ricardo's point, look at the data more holistically and see where the sentiment is.
And I also particularly, Ricardo, with what you said about big ticket items like furniture. What's interesting there, and some of this is anecdotal in my case, having a 25-year-old, they're not thinking about the $4,000 dining room set that, we all bought at some point because we were going to live in a house for 25 years.
Growth they have, especially in health and wellness and just outdoor sports. And then you see the other side of the K economy, which is not doing well. Those people are still spending a lot of money and particularly certain brands. They've done pretty well. Brooks really is not defined just the consumer downturn, so much sitting in one part of the market, which is, their replacement cycle purchases by an insulated cohort. That is really doing well. But it's a real cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
They can't really afford anything else. And to tie up their numbers, they are 14% growth overall. And the category that really performed well, 70% up, was the trailing shoes. So people are really hiking, trailing, running. That's a great
Yep.
helping habit.
Yeah, again, in the one time I did run the marathon, I was able to train because we did it as a group. The next year we did it individually, and I didn't run again because, not having that
money researching is the perfect pair of jeans. Is anybody else a jeans person? I am when it's not 87 degrees outside.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think all Americans are jeans people.
Right.
America runs in jeans. Jeans, denim, and a nice white T-shirt or white shirt collared is the next uniform.
I was going to say Christmas like describing Bruce Springsteen in 1984, but you're right. That's like pure America. So well said. And so Mud Jeans, which, if people are unfamiliar, a circular denim pioneer, filed for bankruptcy after struggling with historic debt and failing to raise sufficient capital through a crowdfunding campaign. And I thought that this was an interesting story because it almost represented to me this whole age-old question, or I feel like I've been speaking to people about this forever, about how much do consumers care about sustainability. And I know that this could be a 5-hour conversation right now, but try to say it in 20 seconds each. How much do consumers actually care about sustainability? What are your takes?
My take is they do care, but people will absolutely buy sustainable. I read it's the right thing to do. It's protecting nature. It's connecting you to nature and just being right. But I just don't think consumers will pay double for it. Used clothing is growing 3 times faster than new. And that's your answer, right?
Myself there. I know my sister-in-law will send me hate mail if she listens to this. She's like, one of those I hate Amazon people. It's a lot, right? Or think about Gen AI. And I know we all use Gen AI. There's data centers obviously involved. There's a whole ton of water that's being consumed because of the tokens that we're using. Ricardo, that's a really great point about thrifting and consumerism. One place where consumers often don't feel the need to be thrifty, of course, is their wedding. And I had the pleasure of connecting with David Bridal's Chief Communications and Creative Officer, Lisa Horton, and its President and Chief Business Officer, Elina Vilk, at eTail Boston last week. So let's jump to that interview, and I'll be back with my panel to wrap things up right after that. I'm here to talk to Lisa and Elina about David's Bridal. Going to cover a whole lot of topics in a short period of time, so no pressure, both of you. Thank you so much for joining me at eTail Boston.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
appreciate it.
So many different things that I wanted to talk to you about. One of the things is, for people who've not been familiar, I think David's Bridal has had like an eventful few years, right?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we could talk a little bit about like the transformation of David's Bridal as a brand, and what's the hardest decision for you in terms of proving that that transformation isn't just a rebranding, but like a real reimagining of what the company and brand can be?
Yeah, well, we are a 76-year-old retailer, and we wear that like a badge of honor. I think a lot of times in retail, age can sometimes, have a negative connotation. For us, we really believe it means legacy and heritage. But at the same time, for the last 18 to 24 months, we've really been a startup inside of that legacy retailer. And so we've, taken on tons of digital transformation opportunities, but we've also changed the way that we are messaging, the way that we are communicating with our guests, but the way that we're also connecting with creators, the way that we're doing PR is different. And so I think what's important is a rebrand, maybe you're changing a few messages, maybe you're changing your colors and some typography. For us, it's really at the DNA and the core of everything that we're doing. We truly are putting our money where our mouth is and really living and breathing what we're talking about. And everything has really come from a place of strategy and thoughtful inflection, and also really listening to our customers and our guests and bringing them exactly what they're telling us they want.
I think transformation at its core is really about changing the customer problem that you're solving. And so you're transforming a company, you're not just transforming its label. You're not just transforming the overall messaging of what we're doing. You're looking at, are we fundamentally changing what we're delivering to the customer? And if that answer is yes, then you are in a transformation. And for us, we are going from a TAM of $4 billion. We have 90% of the brides coming through our ecosystem. And all we've done for the last 75 years is sold her a dress. Today, we are transforming that ideology and moving into the 100 billion plus wedding category, in thinking about that same bride and how do we become a more relevant and significant part of that entire journey and connecting her with every element of that wedding journey.
So I'm glad that you mentioned journey, because I think it's interesting. You can define your competition in so many different ways, but I mean, you can think about the companies that are directly doing exactly what you're doing. But then even when you're thinking from a discovery standpoint, there's obviously like AI infused discovery these days. There's, like the Knot, there's Pinterest, obviously, I feel like is huge. I've seen like a lot of really good TikToks that, recommend products that you need for a wedding. So when you're thinking about your total addressable audience, who are you thinking about as your biggest competitor when you're thinking, trying to define that?
I don't think in terms of competitors at all, which is really strange. Our biggest competitor is ourselves in the standpoint that, are we really solving the problem in the way we can solve the problem? I don't think we have a direct competitor in what we're offering. We have probably competitors in sections or niches. What we're really trying to do is establish ourselves in the discovery process at the right moment in time, because the thing we're solving for is a person that is completely overwhelmed, that doesn't know where to start. And that's why you see the marketing in this industry so fragmented and so everywhere, because she doesn't actually know where to start. And you think about it this way, this is the biggest event you're ever going to plan that you have no experience planning. Okay, you have never done this before. You're taking on most of the time, unless you're an event planner.
Yeah,
maybe you do this twice,
Yeah.
But I think that, if you're 28 years old, you've never had to plan an event this size. You've never had to think about all these things, and then you don't know what to think about. So you can go to an LLM and say, how might I plan a wedding, or how does this even work? That's not a starting point. You're going to get a lot of answers, and you're going to feel even more overwhelmed at the response. And so our solution to that was to create a guided journey, and that enables her to really understand where and all the elements are. And I think that's the piece that's missing right now in the world, is solving the actual problem statement, which is, I feel overwhelmed and I'm stressed, and where do I even begin?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because there is so much creator content out there now to help people make decisions. And, is that additive? Is that helpful? Are you trying to tap that to just, meeting the customer where they're at? And I feel like for a lot of people, they start their journey by just searching through that content.
Yeah. Well, I think to your question previously too, it's also about figuring out what types of content is going to resonate across all of those platforms, right? Because the types of content that we put out on Pinterest is different than what we're putting out on Instagram and TikTok. And then we also have to make sure that we are showing up in LLMs. And, that has to do with what we're putting on the site from an education perspective or a thought leadership perspective. And
But I think it's also a little bit that we want to slow down.
Yeah, we probably have all been part of it, where somebody sends us a text and then taps on that message to then add a question mark reaction to their own question. I'm like, it was 4 minutes ago. What are you talking about?
To me, the double T of this week was, I was reading that AI slop has started going into our laws. I know there is a lot of AI slop everywhere, in images and texts and across everywhere. Most of the LinkedIn content is AI now, at least. And then this whole new story about putting a sort of copyright mark OpenAI and Anthropic are saying to do in text generated from LLMs. But for it is really serious when the AI slot goes into the laws.
To ensure you're staying up to date with us, please hit that subscribe button. We'd also love it if you left us a review or send us any thoughts and feedback over to media@rethink.industries. We just might read your comments on the air. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.